August is Breastfeeding Awareness Month, and we have actor Neha Dhupia, who started Freedom to Feed to promote education, support and to empower mothers when she first became a mother in 2019. Neha, first things first, what drove you to this initiative that's become a community of over 50,000?
I think becoming a mother is what drove me to this community. So that's the most important thing. So I gave birth to Meher, our daughter, in 2018 November. And then that's when I realized that, okay, people keep talking about breastfeeding and all the videos that you see. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When I was pregnant, I wasn't doing too much research as a pregnant mom, or this is what I've read on the internet. I just decided that I'm going to have like 2 or 3 moms around me who are going to be like the ones I trust, or my circle of trust was really tiny because I didn't want to get confused and have information overload. So I kind of focused on the pregnancy, childbirth, all of that. And I did very little study on breastfeeding. And then I realized it's a real thing. Like no matter what, when you live your 4th trimester, it's actually the hardest, most rewarding and all of that. But you just have to be there around the kid. No matter where you are, every 2.5 hours, you have to rush back. There's no other way of doing this.
Well, you've roped in many of your peers from Bollywood, new mothers like Bipasha Basu, Gauhar Khan, Dia Mirza, amongst others. Take us through some of the myths and misconceptions revolving breastfeeding.
If I were to say that breastfeeding is hard is a myth, is going to be a misconception for someone else. Because for me, it wasn't that hard, but the second time around. But for somebody, it is hard, So everyone turns around and kind of has a different story towards it. And for some of us, we decide that, hey, okay, this is something that we can do. For some of us, we're like, okay, fine, between supply and demand, we can make enough for our baby. But sometimes your baby keeps wanting more. And I feel like the biggest misconception, and I'm not going to say it any other way, that it's not easy. It's very hard, it's very rewarding, but it's very, very hard. But every mother's journey is completely different. I, of course, had scheduled it and I had a diary, and then I was just like, if there's going to be 8 feeds in the day, it's going to be multiplied. And then when we start weaning, we start dropping and all of that. But I feel like the biggest misconception is that how much ever your baby wants is what you'll make.
Neha, well, new moms face huge challenges when it comes to postpartum, breastfeeding, sleepless nights and so much more. While there are huge benefits of breastfeeding, take us through some of the biggest challenges in a woman's breastfeeding journey, especially amongst those who find it hard to breastfeed.
I think you said it in your question. I think the sleepless nights, the fact that it's isolating, the fact that there's a lot of attention paid to the child and there's very little attention, as far as the 4th trimester is concerned, very little attention paid to the mother. Also because the baby is, newborn and it's tiny and it's just, you have to look after it. And I feel like there's a lot of, there's a very famous saying that everyone is there to hug the baby, but who's there to hug the mom? So, I also think that as hard or easy or difficult, even all pregnancies are completely different. As hard or easy your pregnancy is, your 4th trimester, no matter who you are, which mom you are, it's always hard. You snap out of it 3 months later and sometimes you don't snap out of it at all.
So, Neha, are we doing enough, according to you, in order to educate and prepare new moms on how to breastfeed?
So there's medically, no matter which lactation expert or which gynecologist you go to, they'll always tell you that, hey, this is the best thing. As much as you can, you should try. If you have to head back, bounce back to work, then of course, the most important thing is that the mother and the baby need to be okay. They need to find their rhythm and we need to be okay with that. And we need to stop judging. And I feel like the first stigma is removed when you have to stop judging. For instance, there's a huge amount of judgment that comes with a woman kind of bouncing back to work sooner than her time. And her time is defined by, people around you saying, hey, it's too soon or it's too late or what about your feed? And also you need to, the other thing you need to do is stop putting the woman under pressure to kind of say, oh, you're going to feed now, and now have you been able to make enough milk, and have you been able to feed your kid enough? I feel like that pressure by itself is a huge blockage in letting the mother do what she really wants to do.
Now, Neha, unlike the West, here in India, this topic is not openly spoken about or embraced as a natural progression to motherhood. Take us through the stigma surrounding breastfeeding and what more can be done to remove stigmas associated with top feed.
So if you're looking at medically, there were no lactation experts at the time of our moms who would walk into the room. I'm sure they were there, but who would walk into the room soon after childbirth, tell you what needs to be done, how your feeds need to be planned. But as far as social media and, all of that is concerned, there were very few kind of communities. Today, we have some really large communities around breastfeeding that help new moms understand the process of feeding, weaning, baby-led weaning, whatever your conversations are, they help you plan that. Are we doing enough around normalizing this? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that, people watching this, the ones who don't have children, have probably changed the channel by now. So they're not interested in the conversation. So the minute they get interested in the conversation, they're doing enough by just listening.
Now, it's not just the nursing mother, but the new dads and also the family involved. How can we better educate families on how to aid and help nursing mothers?
I think that it starts with the guests who come home, and it's not the mother's job to figure out ki, chai ke saath kya dena hai. Like, let the mother rest, feed the mother well, look after her. She's living probably the hardest part of, childbirth, which is, and she needs to kind of, recover as well. So one is that. I think co-parenting, very large part of the conversation. And I think that, physically, when obviously men are not able to breastfeed, but there's so much more that they can do. Like, even with Angad and me, I kind of, spread a bad rumor or a good rumor or a fun rumor saying the baby just burps better when it's higher. So, we started with that, but he was so active in like doing things like just, getting our daughter to burp or, just being there. And sometimes you just, and things like even postpartum depression, it's all real. Like it happens. You're living that part, and be there, get help, be there for your wife, all of that. I feel like the husband can do so much.
Right. So on a personal note, how did your husband, Angad, help you out while you were nursing?
For me, it was everything from the time that, we had her, like he was right there by me to, he was right there by my side, and, the first instant latch, and, he was just like, will it happen, not happen? It happened. It was beautiful, to a point where, physically trying to like, from, swaddling her to kind of cleaning her, or from the first bath right to the end. And, now as well, it's like our duties are split. What we do and what we want to do as couples is we don't applaud anything that he does as a dad and what I do as a mom. We don't need to raise that on a pedestal. It's, and we both have a huge sense of understanding that those are his kids and my kids as well. And as far as being specific about breastfeeding journeys, like sometimes, I just found it like sometimes I would wake up at 1:30 at night and I would find it lonely, and I would see him the next day. I would tell him I was really lonely. It's so isolating to wake up.
Well, Neha, recently Bipasha Basu opened up about her child being born with 2 holes in her heart. Very unfortunate, wish no parent has to ever go through that. But take us through how important it is to share such hardships in order to perhaps make it easier for others.
So, every year during and around breastfeeding week, we have conversations with moms who, have a more amplified voice. And, I refrain from using words like super mom and stuff like that, because according to me, every mom is a super mom. They're doing whatever best they can in their own way for their children. The last one, we've had conversations all through the week. And the last one, I always get on a briefing call and about 10 minutes before getting on a live. And she was like, I was like, how are you doing? Are you ready to go live? And she's like, I hardly ever go live and I just want to share something. And I was like, please go ahead. And our live was at 4 and about 5 to 4. She was like, I'm not the kind of person, in fact, I'm going to rephrase that. She said, I'm the kind of person who always speaks the truth. And there's something I'd like to share. And if you take me to a point where I may feel like speaking the truth, is it okay if I do? And I'm just like, of course. And there was a part of me that didn't know what to expect. And first she started off with the struggles of her IVF journey. And, it's hard enough that you have to go through that. And then she revealed Devi's condition that she got to know 3 days after they gave birth. And it was just for me to listen as a fellow mom. It was so hard. I cannot even imagine what Bipasha and Karan and, of course, Devi went through. I cannot imagine how much strength you need as a parent to turn that around.
And Neha, kudos to you for touching upon a subject which is usually ignored, opening up conversations around it, and for normalizing breastfeeding. Thank you so much for your time.